There is a form of airdrop qualification that never once looks at what your wallet bought, held, or traded. It does not care which tokens sat in your balance at some hidden block, or how many swaps you signed across a whole season. It looks at something quieter, and, honestly, something better. Did you help steer the protocol? Did you show up when the project asked its holders to decide something and actually cast a vote? This is qualifying through governance participation, and it is at once one of the most honest signals in the entire space and one of the most badly misunderstood. I run real proxy and cloud phone farms for a living, and I treat airdrop farming as operations rather than a lottery, which means I pay close attention to the signals that are hard to fake and easy to respect. None of what follows is financial advice, none of it predicts a token or a price, and nothing here promises you a drop of any kind. It is simply how this particular kind of qualification works, why protocols choose to reward it, and what separates genuine participation from a crowd of wallets all pretending to care at the exact same moment. So start with what governance participation actually is. A lot of protocols hand real decisions to the people who hold their token or their credential, letting them vote on proposals, delegate their voting power to someone else, and argue out the direction of the thing in the open. How the treasury spends, which upgrades ship, what the parameters should be, all of it decided by the holders rather than a single company behind a curtain. Some distributions later reward exactly the wallets that took part in that steering, on the simple theory that the people who bothered to govern are the people who genuinely cared about where it was going. And that theory is sounder than it first looks. Governance is expensive attention. Reading a long proposal, weighing it honestly, and casting a considered vote is unglamorous work that nobody does casually. So a wallet with a real record of it is a strong sign of an owner rather than a renter. A project deciding who deserves a share of its future naturally wants the owners, the people who showed up for the boring votes on a quiet week, not the tourist who passed through for a weekend. Rewarding governance participants is really just a way of paying back genuine invested use. There are two broad shapes this participation takes, and it helps to keep them straight. One is on-chain voting, where your vote is an actual transaction recorded permanently on the ledger, public and impossible to erase later. The other is off-chain signaling, a gasless vote registered on a governance platform rather than written to the chain itself, lighter and cheaper but recorded on that platform instead. Both can be measured when a distribution is designed, and the protocol may value one far more than the other. So it is genuinely worth knowing which kind of voice a given project actually counts before you spend effort raising it. You also do not always have to vote yourself. Most governance systems let you delegate your voting power to a delegate who then votes on your behalf, which is genuinely useful when you trust someone's judgment more than your own patience for reading proposals. Delegation is itself a governance action, and it is often measured as one. The honest version of this is choosing a delegate whose thinking you actually respect and letting your voice sit behind theirs, rather than pointing 100 empty wallets at a single address to manufacture the mere appearance of a following. The thing that trips most people is the bar for what counts as real participation. Clicking vote on one proposal the afternoon before a rumored measurement is not governance. It is a photograph staged for the camera. The measurements that hold up look at consistency instead. How many proposals you weighed in on, across how long a stretch, whether you kept voting through the quiet seasons when no token was even rumored. Depth over time is the signal. A single vote cast in a panic is exactly the thin reactive pattern that the clustering behind these distributions is built to notice and quietly discount. Now the defensive part, explain the way I always explain it, from the outside and honestly. Protocols know that one operator will be tempted to fake a whole crowd of voters, spinning up a swarm of wallets that all vote the same way on the same proposals at the same moment, funded from the same place, every one of them delegating to the same address. That coordinated block reads as precisely what it is, one entity wearing many hats, in the same way a cluster of trading wallets gives itself away. I am describing how that detection works, so you understand the terrain, not handing you a method to slip through it, because slipping through it is neither the point nor something I will ever coach. This is why blocks of fresh wallets that all voted identically on free proposals and then went silent forever tend to get discounted, often heavily. 100 independent owners do not move in perfect unison. They disagree, They show up at different times. They vote on some things and skip others entirely. 100 wallets that agreed on everything, appeared together, and shared one funding trail do not look like 100 owners at all. They look like a single owner counted 100 times, and the clustering that defends these programs reads the shared timing, the shared source of funds, and the identical voting pattern, and simply sets the whole block aside. There is also a whole shadow economy around renting and buying voting power, where influence over a protocol's decisions is treated as a yield to be extracted rather than a responsibility to be exercised. Genuine governance rewards are trying to find real conviction, so rented votes and mercenary blocks are exactly the thing they attempt to filter out. I name this only to be clear about what these measurements are looking past, not to walk anyone toward it. The posture that survives scrutiny is treating a vote as something you actually meant, not as a lever you leased for a single season and dropped the moment it stopped paying. There is a playing cost reality here too. Governance participation is genuine work, reading proposals that run for pages, following the forum arguments underneath them, and showing up again and again over months rather than just once. On-chain voting also spends real gas every time you cast a vote. So a wallet that votes on everything everywhere is quietly burning money for the look of engagement. That pushes you back to the one rule I hold on to through all of this. Only take part in governance you actually care about, because pretending to care at scale is both detectable from the outside and genuinely miserable to sustain. The timing lesson from the rest of airdrop farming carries straight over. Governance history accumulates, and you cannot backdate a vote you never cast. A wallet that starts participating the week a token first begins to be rumored has a week of history behind it, and nothing more, no matter how diligently it votes from that day forward. The participation that counts, like every honest signal in this space, was already quietly there before anyone was watching for it. That is not a trick you can perform late. It is a record you either built in advance or you did not build at all. Some ecosystems weigh far more than the raw vote as well. Writing a thoughtful proposal of your own, contributing something useful to a discussion, showing up in the forum with an argument people actually engage with. These are the deepest forms of the signal and the hardest of all to fake. They are also the hardest to measure cleanly, so not every distribution can reward them. But where a project pays attention to real contribution rather than only a vote count, honest engagement is indistinguishable from that of an invested community member, for the simple reason that it is exactly that. The risks are real and worth stating, without spin. There is such a thing as governance washing, protocols that dangle the promise of participation, mostly to farm engagement, and then never reward it in any way. There are tokens that do reward governance, right up until the moment the team quietly changes the terms. And there is always the season of votes you cast, honestly, for a project that simply goes cold and distributes nothing at all. So weigh governance as what it is, genuine participation in something you would want to help steer, regardless, not a ticket you are somehow owed at the end. Read the actual rules of each program too, because they genuinely differ. Some explicitly reward governance participants, some ignore governance entirely and measure only other things, and some go out of their way to penalize the obvious voting rings. Those are different worlds, and assuming the wrong one can waste a whole season of effort. I will not tell you a given protocol is safe, legit, or a scam as a blanket label, because that is not mine to declare in the abstract. Read what the team publishes about its own governance, watch how it actually treats the people who take part, and judge it on what it shows you rather than on the noise around it. Treat the whole thing with plain ops discipline. Keep an honest log of which protocols you actually participate in, which proposals you voted on, and roughly when and where you delegated your voting power. Then read that record without sentiment and prune it. Governance you no longer follow for a project you have quietly stopped believing in is participation to retire, and the attention it frees goes to the handful of things you genuinely care to steer. The operators who do well here are not the ones voting on everything in sight. They are the ones truly engaged with a few protocols and honest about the rest. What actually protects you is participation that would make complete sense even if no token ever arrived. A wallet that genuinely helps govern a protocol is indistinguishable from an invested owner for the simplest possible reason: it is one. There is no block to hide inside, no timing to guess at, No shared funding trail to explain away, because you are not performing governance across a crowd of clones. You are actually taking part as yourself. If my only reason to vote is to qualify, I think twice. If my reason to vote is that I genuinely care where the protocol goes, then the measurement, whenever it finally comes, simply catches me being real. So the reframe I would leave you with is this. Qualifying through governance is not a scheme to farm votes at scale. It is a decision to actually take part in steering something you believe in, and to do it consistently enough that no measurement ever catches you faking it. Which protocols genuinely reward governance? How on-chain and off-chain voting are each read when a distribution is designed, and the trackers I use to log what I voted on and when are all written up in full at airdropfarming.org, with no hype and nothing there being financial advice or a promise about any drop. I farm these the boring methodical way and write up what actually qualifies, rather than whatever governance token happens to be loud this particular week. Subscribe if you want the operator view of this, governance taken part in honestly rather than gamed with a block of clones, and the honest caveats left in every single time. Next time we take one protocol's governance from a first vote all the way through a full season, and watch how genuine, patient participation earns real standing far more reliably than any swarm of wallets voting in perfect, suspicious unison.